Welcome to this audio guide about the Sistine Chapel, one of humanity's most extraordinary works of art. You are in the heart of the Vatican Museums, standing before the legacy of Michelangelo Buonarroti, who dedicated years of his life to creating the frescoes that decorate this sacred space. The Sistine Chapel was built between 1473 and 1481 by order of Pope Sixtus IV, from whom it takes its name. Originally, it was a functional space where the most important ceremonies of the Vatican were held, including the conclave where the new pope is elected. But its true fame came when Michelangelo transformed its ceiling into one of the Renaissance's masterpieces. Michelangelo did not want to paint the Sistine Chapel. He considered himself a sculptor, not a painter. When Pope Julius II commissioned the work in 1508, Michelangelo tried to refuse, but the Pope was relentless. For 4 years, from 1508 to 1512, Michelangelo worked practically alone, lying on scaffolding more than 20 meters high, painting over 5,000 square meters of frescoes. The ceiling of the Sistine Chapel tells the story of humanity from creation to the universal flood, according to the Book of Genesis. The composition is divided into 9 central panels that narrate the creation of the world, the creation of Adam and Eve, their expulsion from paradise, and finally the flood. The most famous panel is, without doubt, the creation of Adam. This iconic image shows God extending his arm to give life to Adam, but there is a hidden secret that few know. The shape surrounding God and the angels has the exact shape of a human brain. Michelangelo, who was also an anatomist, knew the structure of the brain perfectly. Was this intentional? Scholars debate, but the coincidence is too precise to be casual. In The Creation of Adam, also observe how God's finger almost touches Adam's, but doesn't quite reach. This space, this almost contact, represents the exact moment of creation, the instant when the divine spark passes from God to man. It is a moment suspended in time, captured for eternity. The figure of Eve, who appears under God's arm in the same panel, has profound meaning. Her position suggests she was already present in God's mind before being created, representing predestination and the complete divine plan from the beginning. The original sin and the expulsion from paradise shows 2 moments in a single panel. On the left, Adam and Eve eat the forbidden fruit, and on the right, they are expelled by an angel with a sword. The serpent has a woman's face, a detail Michelangelo took from medieval tradition. The tree of knowledge is in the center, dividing the 2 temporal moments. The figure of the serpent is particularly interesting. Its body coils around the tree, and its humanoid face suggests cunning and temptation. Michelangelo painted it with bright colors that contrast with the rest of the scene, making it impossible not to notice. The ignudi, the nude male figures flanking the central panels, are one of the most controversial elements of the work. They represent the beauty of the human body in its natural state. Before sin, Michelangelo painted them with anatomical perfection that only a sculptor of his caliber could achieve. Every muscle, every tendon, is represented with scientific precision. The prophets and sibyls appearing on the sides of the ceiling are key figures. The sibyls were pagan prophetesses, who, according to Christian tradition, predicted the birth of Christ. Michelangelo painted them with the same dignity as the biblical prophets, showing that divine truth can manifest even outside Jewish and Christian tradition. The Sibyl of Delphi is particularly impressive. Her pose is dynamic, with the body turned and arms in motion, as if reading a scroll that is outside the frame. Her expression is intense, concentrated, as if receiving a divine revelation at that very moment. The prophet Jeremiah, sitting in a melancholy attitude, is considered a self-portrait of Michelangelo. The expression of weariness and concern reflects how the artist felt after years of exhausting work. Jeremiah was known as the weeping prophet, and Michelangelo identified with his sufferings. The lunettes, the semicircular spaces at the top of the walls, show Christ's ancestors. These figures, though less known, are equally important in the biblical narrative. They represent the genealogy connecting the Old Testament with the New Testament. The fresco technique Michelangelo used is extremely difficult. It requires painting on wet plaster, meaning the artist has only a few hours before the plaster dries. Once dry, the colors are permanently fixed. Michelangelo had to plan each section meticulously, working in small areas called giornate, workdays. The colors Michelangelo used were especially vibrant. He used expensive pigments, like ultramarine blue, made from ground lapis lazuli, which was more valuable than gold at that time. Pope Julius II spared no expense, providing the best materials available. 22 years after completing the ceiling, Michelangelo returned to the Sistine Chapel to paint the Last Judgment on the altar wall. This work, completed in 1541, is even more dramatic and controversial than the ceiling. It shows the end of the world, with Christ as judge in the center, surrounded by saints, angels, and the damned. In the Last Judgment, Michelangelo dared to paint completely nude figures in a sacred space, something unprecedented. This caused controversy even in his time. Years later, another artist was hired to dress some of the figures, adding painted cloths over the nudes. These modifications, known as braghetone breeches, are still visible today. The figure of Christ in The Last Judgment is powerful and terrifying. It is not the merciful Christ of traditional art, but an implacable judge. His right arm is raised, ready to condemn, while his left arm is extended toward the saved. This asymmetry creates visual and emotional tensions. Saint Bartholomew, who appears holding his own flayed skin, has a face that many believe is another self-portrait of Michelangelo. The hanging skin shows a distorted face, possibly representing how the artist felt after years of exhausting work and criticism. The damned in the Last Judgment fall toward hell in the lower part of the fresco. Their expressions of terror and despair are vivid and terrifying. Michelangelo did not spare in showing the horror of eternal damnation, creating an image that was meant to serve as a warning. The restoration of the Sistine Chapel, completed in 1994, revealed much brighter colors than believed. For centuries, candle smoke and dirt had darkened the frescoes. The cleaning removed layers of yellowed varnish, revealing Michelangelo's original vibrant colors. The acoustics of the Sistine Chapel are exceptional. Its rectangular shape and height create perfect reverberation for Gregorian chant. During conclaves, when cardinals elect the new pope, the space fills with chants that resonate impressively. The floor of the Sistine Chapel is a work of art in itself, which was designed, in the 15th century, using the cosmatesco technique, with colored marbles forming complex geometric patterns. This style, typical of medieval Rome, creates an optical illusion of depth. The side walls of the Sistine Chapel also have important frescoes, painted by other Renaissance masters like Botticelli, Perugino, and Ghirlandaio. These frescoes show scenes from the life of Moses and Christ, creating a complete iconographic program connecting the Old and New Testaments. The Sistine Chapel is not just a museum, it remains an active sacred space. Masses are celebrated here, and it is where the conclave to elect the Pope takes place. When you see white smoke coming from the chapel's chimney, it means a new Pope has been elected. Preserving the Sistine Chapel is a constant challenge. Every year, millions of visitors enter, bringing with them moisture, carbon dioxide, and particles that can damage the frescoes. The Vatican has implemented advanced climate control systems to maintain optimal temperature and humidity. The influence of the Sistine Chapel on Western art is incalculable. Generations of artists have studied Michelangelo's works here, learning about anatomy, composition, and technique. It is a living art school, a place where technical mastery meets spiritual expression. When you contemplate the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, you are seeing not just art, but the culmination of the Italian Renaissance. It is the moment when art reached new heights, literally and figuratively. Michelangelo elevated painting to the level of sculpture and architecture, creating something that transcends all categories. The Sistine Chapel is a reminder of what humans can achieve when they dedicate all their energy, talent, and life to a work. Michelangelo worked under extreme conditions, with an aching body and eyes irritated by falling paint, but created something eternal. Thank you for listening to this audio guide about the Sistine Chapel. We hope you have discovered the hidden meanings of the ceiling figures and that this experience has enriched your visit. The Sistine Chapel is a place that deserves to be contemplated calmly, because every glance reveals something new. Enjoy the rest of your visit to the Vatican Museums.